Hello, and welcome to another episode of Liberate University. Today's topic is going to be cord cutting and energetic protection. I am Nikki Bridges from Urban Mysticism, and I'm here to share a few tips and hopefully some information that is helpful to utilize energetic protection into your daily life and your urban environment. And now I'm gonna sit. So, a lot of what I do is energetic protection, soul retrieval, shamanic healing, a lot of this stuff. But what has kind of been a constant over the years has been, cord cutting, and people asking me about cord cutting or wondering what it is. There are so many levels to what that entails or what that means for people. And there's so many layers to it, really, of like, you can do just kind of a basic, clear and cleanse yourself, which is part of your daily energetic protection. But oftentimes, the strongest cords we have are intimate relationships, people that we've had the closest connection to, family members, these types of things. And so then in that case, it's not about just, sometimes you can't just cut the cord. So I've kind of gotten, it's like, I'm two sides about it with that, where I almost don't even like using the term cord cutting, because it's like it brings this idea of finality into people's minds, and it brings fear. It's like a fear-based idea, because then you think, but I don't want to like cut that person out of my life. I want, I still want, this person is, my mom is like the closest person in the world to me. I could never cut that cord with her. But what I've watched and witnessed over the last several years, she was going through a lot of really stressful times, financially, otherwise. And I would be in my day and whatever, and then when I would go to her house, it's like I got hit with this wave. And not because she was being negative, maybe she'd be sharing some information with me or whatever, but, and actually the opposite of, she was trying to guard her energy because she knows that we have that connection. But it didn't matter. I just got hit with it. And so it really became this, like, how do I differentiate? And so I kind of started this thing in my courses that I do, which I don't know if we're supposed to be cussing on here, but basically I have a little thing that's called, whose shit is it? Is it your shit or is it my shit? Whose shit? Who's the shit? Because really, you think it's somebody else's, but it could be yours, and vice versa. So you've been out and about, and energies can attach to you and or drain you from anybody. But the one main thing to prevent that from happening is being grounded. When you start your day, before you leave your house, when you're still in your safe space, because however your home space looks like, if it's one little room, if it's just, if it's a whole house, whatever, that should always be the one place that you have that stays clear, that you can come back to. It's your safe space. So it's like, I always advise people, and I know you can't always do it, but it's like, if you're going to be in a really wild argument, try to move it outside. Take it to the car. Take it someplace else, because that energy hovers. And if you end up in a situation where you have to argue or you're talking about heavy stuff in your house, use some of the simple practices. Do a clearing. Do a saging. Salt is really clearing. But the bottom line is that you should always have a safe space, because that's where you're able to decompress. So when you enter in your house, even if you don't feel like saging all the time, there's other methods that you can use. If nothing else, just imagine. So this is like, there's just a couple of like real standard things that I do, and I don't even always do them, which I teach them, but then I'm like, oh, I don't even always practice it. And then I can tell a difference when I don't practice, I like to do, people do all different kind of things about cords, about where we're corded on our bodies, where we're connected to the earth, where we're corded to other people. If you start in just a basic way to start to recognize whether you believe in chakras, whether you just believe in energy centers, however it plays out for you, how you see it, the more that we're in touch with these cords, energy centers, what have you, the more that we're able to feel when they're being manipulated, or to feel when a shift is occurring, or when energy is being taken or manipulated in that way. I do the umbilical cord for me of my grounding in the morning before my feet hit the ground. I work with a team. Everybody works with their own team. Some people don't know it. Some people do, whatever your team is. Archangel Michael is my strongest. So even if, you're non-denominational, you don't believe in things, I don't know. Energetically, it's a powerful energy to tap into. So in any situation, that's who I call on. And I imagine myself with like an umbilical cord down into the ground, like as if it's going down through the ground, down into the earth and locking, almost like when they do a fire hose and they got to lock it to put it on. So it's even that process of where it's almost like you can hear a click when you're imagining that, because that's an instant, that's your source. And then imagine a tube above your head that's connecting upward, basically to your higher self, but even higher into your energetic center and source. So you're imagining calling in just pure white light and breathing out any excess negative energy down into the earth. And I've had people over the years be like, yeah, but the earth is already hurting so much. Why do we want to give negative energy back? Because she can handle that. She can dissipate that energy. It's just all the other nonsense that's being thrown at her. But when you're doing focused energy release, and you're calling in and you're releasing, the earth is able to dissipate it in those ways to where it's not negative anymore. And so it's like a constant thing of calling in and then releasing. So it's like calling in the good, releasing the bad. And another really good thing just to kind of post up around you is people, say a circle of white light, what have you. I like to imagine it like an egg shape, because when you start thinking, oh, I've got a circle of white light, how far is that going out around you? This is your own personal protection. So this is not like what you're trying to give to the world or your aura or any of that stuff. This is, I want myself protected in my day. And, then it can extend past that. I just imagine like an egg around me that's very tightly closed of light. That's like golden, because gold and orange, white light is pure and it's protective. And there's, all the colors, and that's another thing too. I mean, I'm going off topic, but the energetic colors all kind of represent. So just for your own life, for your own protection in your day, it's a good practice to just imagine that and just kind of take some deep breaths into that. Imagine the light. And I always say then when you've put your feet on the ground, just kind of do maybe a stretch or just imagine really kind of breathing through that, because then it's like you're centered. Okay, now I'm out in my day. Throughout your day, stuff that you might encounter or makes you feel weird, then you can imagine different stuff. There's different tools to use throughout your day when you're put in a weird situation. Sometimes people just give off funky vibes. Not everybody knows that they're doing it. Not everybody knows that they're trying to attach cords to you. Not everybody knows that they're trying to. Yes, there are plenty of people that know that they're trying to do it, but not everybody does. And some people are just depleted, like so many of us. So it becomes like an energy dance where you feel somebody and it's like, oh, okay. And sometimes you feel like you just want to get away from them. In those moments, imagine yourself centered, and I call on the violet flame, which is another kind of color code and thing that you can imagine yourself surrounded by, of just same thing, but more of a bubble this time, right? So your personal bubble is small in the egg shape, but then you imagine your larger bubble and it's outward and it's more like, okay, I need my shield up, like I need my protection. So it's kind of a little bit larger. And it's interesting because then, you call on your team, or you call on that, but more than anything is when you're imagining this light and you're imagining this protection and you're imagining this stuff around you, get in your power, however that feels for you. For me, it's a posture. So when I'm feeling an energy and somebody's kind of coming at me, or there's just some weird stuff, you're walking down the street. We're in Hollywood, y'all, so it happens. In this mecca of light, it happens. It comes around. So, yeah, people respond to physicality as well. So as much as everybody's spiritual and you're doing your work internally and whatever, people respond to physicality. So if you're standing in your center, posted up, Sometimes a little bit like you're going to beat somebody's ass. Doesn't always have to be that way. A little bit sometimes it is for me, depending. But no matter what it is really grounding yourself and breath work through that. I promise you. I mean, yes, sometimes it doesn't always, but I say watch it. I watch people who may be trying to take your energy or trying to come at you. It's like they kind of step back a little bit. Oh, okay. Because now you've owned that, no, you're not taking my energy. It's not happening. So that's just kind of a conscious thing to step into in your day and to think about. And a couple of other really good things that I utilize too, and I know our topic is cord cutting, but the reason that I'm saying all this other stuff is because when you're doing all these other kind of things and protection and all this stuff, the cords aren't going to be as strong. They're still going to be there with the people personally, but the everyday stuff, because that's what I'm noticing more and more. Is I used to go around with this kind of fear in my head, like everybody's trying to steal my power. Everybody's trying to steal my energy. Because unfortunately, in the spiritual community, there are a lot of people that run on fear-based ideas, and that's how they make their money. And it's like they prey on this idea that we are worried that we're going to lose our power, we're going to lose our strength. No. If you don't allow it, it's not going to happen. Now, obviously, once again, the personal interactions, those are very complex. But once you really start to own your power and hone that, nobody can take that from you. It's good to have tools. I utilize tools. I come from a long line of Native strong-ass women, and, I have that in me. But even me, when I really first started to embark on this, I became an open channel. And with that, I didn't know how to control it. So I took a lot of courses. I was doing a lot of stuff. And it was scary because, I'm from the South. There was spirits around my crib before I was born. It's part of it. It's just always part of our language and, just life. And my mom used to always say, like, there'd be stuff in the house when I was younger, whatever. I used to go to sleep with the TV on. I was just freaked out all the time. Seeing shit, it was awful. And I always wanted to try to block it out. It just wasn't, it was like I couldn't. That was always her thing where, like, she would basically look up on spirits. Like, no, you ain't coming in here. But it was like she didn't know these tools. Like, she wasn't studying all this stuff and doing, but it was just her energetically as a mama bear was like, no, you're not doing it. So I've noticed really particularly in the last couple of years where I'm like, that's what I'm now embodying. So I have all these tools, but also sometimes you just got to get mama bear with it. Mama bear, pop bear. You just got to sometimes be like, no, not today. And so the more that this is becoming part of your consciousness of you're not going to take my energy. This is who I am. I am strong. Affirmations. I have, years ago, I created a line of gem and flower essences, particularly for this. I started a line for protection because sometimes you can't always sage. So essential oils are very important. But what I started my line with and now has kind of rippled through my life is I do affirmations. So it is so important. You don't have to always speak the things that you're trying to manifest, the things that you want. But when it comes to protection and getting yourself grounded, when you're having an anxiety attack, I mean, so often, that's the other thing too. And I've really learned this firsthand this year. I had some heart stuff and it was crazy because I was like, wow, it was the first time that I saw how closely anxiety is connected to energetic shifts and connected to, I was in a very bad car wreck. So that was the PTSD from that coming through. And it started the anxiety and it kept everything going. But it's also me being in a hypersensitive place now because I'm on edge to energies where, like, I kind of lost my balance again. I lost my footing. So that's a big problem, that many of us face is dealing with anxiety and dealing with feeling overwhelmed. And a lot of that is because we are sensitive. We are empaths. We are intuitive. I can promise you every single one of you here has gifts. We're all unearthing them now. That's why you're here in this time and in this space. And it's scary sometimes because now all of a sudden things are coming through for you that you didn't know that you had. And how do I navigate these things? And what do I do? And then here comes the fear again that, oh, I'm coming in with these gifts and now somebody's going to take them. Uh-oh. And it's, you know what I mean? And it's just just this like spiral of fear and then this and then, oh, I got to buy more stuff. I got to do this. And no matter what, If you are not solid and you are not grounded and you are not in your power center, none of that stuff. You can wear all the crystals all day. You can sage all day. It's not going to change it because you are allowing your energy to be manipulated, sometimes just even by your own mind. So a super quick one, like if you're in traffic, I mean, obviously you can't hold wheels, so if you're stopped in traffic, or you're in just things that would normally cause you anxiety. So if you're riding a bus, or you're in traffic, or you're in a crowded area. I'm not real big on a lot of mudras, but this one particular mudra, I have never seen something affect me so quickly. So if everybody wants to try this, this is something that when I started doing it was like really crazy. So it's your middle and your ring finger and your thumb of both hands. And you don't even have, see, this is the other thing. People don't have to see you doing stuff. You could do stuff real low key. I mean, when I'm really doing it, I do this because I want to imagine. So let's just hold for a second, feet grounded. Take 3 deep breaths in. In, let it out. In, let it out. And one big one in, and let it out. And imagine a golden ray, like a rainbow, wrapping all the way around from one hand all the way around the top of your head to the other hand, like an arc. And then release it. You can come back into this space whenever you want in your day, and it's like a golden arch above you that you're protected in. It's like this circle. It's super quick. I don't even remember when I read about it a while back, and then it was like, oh, and that really shifted things for me. Breathing is a big thing. I'm not big into breath work because I have asthma and it's a whole thing, but it's like, I like the things, that's my company's Urban Mysticism. I like the things that I can incorporate in my day that people don't need to know about, because you don't want to be out here looking crazy and doing stuff, like it's like, so I keep it under wraps. I call on things in my head. I'm doing this. Like, I'm always imagining stuff, yeah, carrying crystals and whatever, but there's just things that you can do that you can incorporate within your day. Before I get into the full cord cutting thing, is there questions about anything? Huh? Your middle and your ring finger and thumb. And it's, there's tons of different mudras and stuff, but it's like, you don't even have, so you could just be like chilling and just imagining it around you. Walking on the grass barefoot, super cliche. I know everybody talks about it. Very quick. The other things are good when you can't get to grass, but nature, at least for me and always in my life, is the quickest way that I can always be grounded. I can always be connected to the earth. I can always be centered. Even if you're walking outside and something weird happens and you feel like you want to dissipate, the same way that you dissipate through that umbilical cord, you can hold on to a tree and just send a prayer to the tree. It doesn't have to hurt the tree, nothing else. But the same way that you would give it back to the earth is, let me just release this and, thank the tree. Because it's a quick way to get in touch with pure source energy that, whatever it is that you believe, nature holds that energy. So it's a way to kind of just dissipate that stuff. For me, sound healing is always the thing. So if you're in a space and it has a weird energy and you're in your house and you come home, this is why oftentimes we play music or we do this kind of stuff, but repetitive things like a rattle, it's like doing this kind of drumming, anything like that, a chime, a wind chime, even something simple, even if you don't want to invest in anything like that, even just like a tuning fork, something simple where you can it's like, even just for your own head space, your third eye, it's a clearing. There's something about sound that you just, for me at least, it goes deeper than anything else. It's the one thing that I can instantly get into a meditation. It's the one thing that can always bring me back to center. So those are definitely some things. And then, like I said, once again, with your space, just keep it as clear as possible. I always have, and I change it out, but I always have bowls of salt in my corners. in my bedroom particularly, and on the two opposite corners, like where my bed would be. And I change it out, but it's just a clearing. It's just all little extra things. You put some crystals up in the window. It's so very important to have your space have that sanctity. That's the one place that I come back to. And when everything else is crazy, I come in. But then be mindful when you enter back into your space that you do some kind of clearing. Even if you don't say, you don't do anything else, that you just kind of imagine like it all being kind of sloughed off you and enter in. So you can even do that where it's like you imagine like a cleansing shower, and even in the shower, I do that a lot because showers are like my meditative place. And I call on Michael and I ask, please release anything that no longer serves me. Any and all negative energies that may be attached to me or on me, just please let me release them. And it's just little stuff. You never have to say any of this out loud. I hardly ever say, it's all in my head. So, but it's just kind of, and then it becomes like part of a routine, just little things here and little things there. But when it becomes part of a routine, you'll notice how your energy really does shift, where sometimes, like I said, some days I don't do it, but I still trust that I'm protected, and doesn't mean I have to do it every single day. No, but I can feel when it's time for me to do one of these things or clear or cleanse or do different stuff. Because even though I do this work and this is in my soul, yeah, I have to clear and I have to do stuff. I mean, for me, nature is my main go-to. So the cord cutting business. It's not going to get wrapped up in this little time we have, just so y'all know. It's a lot. I have worked with different healers, different meditations, done many things, done workshops. A lot over a lot of years. It is a plethora of information, modalities, methods, a lot to really delve into, to really do it. It also is kind of a modern day fancy word for another version of soul retrieval. So it's all it.
Cord cutting is?
Well, to some degree, because you're going to go, like with the cording, oftentimes the areas or the centers that people are cording or connecting to you are areas that were depleted or deficient because of things that you'd gone through either in this time or in other times. So it's like parts of you that were broken that, cord cutting is not going to give you soul retrieval. I don't mean it like that. I mean, though, that if you ever do any soul retrieval work, the whole point of soul retrieval, which is a whole other topic that we can do next time too, but just a basic synopsis if you don't know, is that whether it be in this incarnation or others, when any trauma happens in your life, a part of you splinters off, which oftentimes is why, like, for example, my dad passed away. I was a month from turning 13. I will forever a little bit be a teenager, like a little bit of like an angsty teen for the rest of my life, because there was a part of me that was splintered in time. In soul retrieval, we guide you to go back and grab those parts to bring them back into yourself. Those parts oftentimes create openings in time and in your body where now you're open, which means your cords or your energy centers can get connected in ways and people can attach to them. Bless you. Because if you're all in alignment and everything's clear and you're people can't attach to you in those same ways. Whereas if you are energetically deficient in certain ways, depleted, you've been through traumas, halted at certain times in your life, you become more open to psychic attacks, to cording, to all of that stuff. It's all interwoven. It's different names for a lot of the same type of stuff, basically. And the bottom line is, when you're doing the deep healing from layers and generations and ancestral lineage, when you start really doing that stuff, you start noticing how kind of open you've been. Even when you feel closed, even when you're like, oh, I'm closed off. There's energetically parts of you that were unhealed, and that's like a beacon for somebody that's trying to tap into your energy. Like I said, whether they know it or not. So that's one thing that can happen, that can cord people, is that just basic depletion of your soul and of experiences that have damaged you and what you've gone through. So then it makes you susceptible to have people kind of that energy vampire. You know, all these terms are all linked in those ways, because an energy vampire, where are they going to get your energy? They're going to cord you. Oftentimes when it's that term of energy vampire, where it's somebody who is indeed trying to get your energy, one of the quickest ways and the fastest ways that they get is the back of your neck. So that's why people always have this, like, I have it all the time, but that's like the psychic attack spot. It's like the base of your skull into your spine, and it's right there because it's a strong energy center. And that's where it's like, whew. I even had I had a protection symbol put on my back recently for that exact reason. It's like, no more, man. I've been rear-ended 4 times. My neck is a mess. I'm like, no more, because a lot of it has to do with other stuff that's like I've called in, basically. But when you're feeling depleted, you can physically feel the places that you feel. Like I said, the neck. Oftentimes people get hit in the same places, right? So the neck, throat chakra, women very often sacral. You feel off in these areas, you know, because you can get corded front and back. A lot of times when you feel certain feelings, pains come up, it's either one or the other. So maybe you think about a person, an ex or a family member that you're having difficult times with, and then you feel a sadness. You're feeling whatever it is that you've gone through with them. A lot of times there will be a correlating pain in your body that connects when you think about this person, more often than not. And so that's what I always say is, when, you know, to really get to the core of what cords are connected to who, how did this happen, or who am I linked to, or what is it, it's a good practice to just get kind of in some sort of a meditative place and just sit for a sec and just kind of get quiet. And basically ask, you know, to whoever you know, speak to, or your team or whatever, where am I corded? A lot of times you'll also get an image or a name pop into your head. And it's like, oh shit, okay. You know, that I've had a lot of times, like, you know, it's very obvious, but yes, your heart would be somebody that you've been in a relationship with, or, you know, when you're having like a nervous stomach, when you think about somebody, a lot of times that might be because you've got cords there. So a kind of quick way to start to just clear out that energy and claim your energy back is imagining that cord is like a tube. So kind of like the umbilical cord tube, but imagine like somebody's got a tube kind of on you. A really strong meditation, and this is not, you don't do none of this stuff just on your day. This is like when you're in a meditative place. Because yes, through your day you can think like, oh, you know, and you know, keep track of it or whatever before you do any kind of real work with it. So if you're in your day and you know, so-and-so calls you and all of a sudden your neck starts hurting, then you're like, oh, okay. You know, keep track of that kind of stuff. So then when you're in a place that you feel comfortable on your own, I would always suggest this kind of stuff, just do on your own, because with too many people around, and then but it's like, you know, wherever you can get quiet and just imagine. So then it's like, okay, maybe remember the things or just tap into a meditative place. I always do the meditations, these kind of things, cord stuff, I always do it lying down, because you can just get a better idea when you're really laying down and you're just in a comfortable kind of that, you know, before you go to sleep, dreamlike place where you're just laying there. It's just easier to tap into parts of your body that you feel are being depleted. So, you can get corded anywhere, but usually it's mainly within your chakras. And you know, however it's good for you to meditate, put on some music. You know, there's a ton, by the way, of cord cutting, very specific cord cutting meditations. I highly, highly, highly recommend. Diana Cooper is an amazing woman who has recorded one of the best cord cuttings that to this day I still use. She says a whole lot of crazy stuff. She talks about chastity belts and hair shirts and some real wild stuff from like past lives. So you kind of got to like, it's like take what you want, leave the rest. So some of it you're kind of like, ugh, but you just let go and just kind of release whatever. So, you listen to it on headphones, but she guides you through ways to go into the Crystal Cathedral, and you see it's like Akashic record kind of stuff. It's real intense. So, but then there's plenty of stuff on YouTube. Just if it's helpful for you, the only reason I'm saying this is because sometimes and I know for me, it's helpful to hear someone guide you through the first few times, because it's something that you'll always kind of revisit. So then after you've had it guided in a specific way, then you could just lay there and quietly kind of imagine these things. But, if you don't feel called to do that and you just want to do it on your own, get into a meditative place, really call in, even ask to see. Sometimes you can visually see. It depends on how you process things. Sometimes you can visually see things color-coded or energies. You can see this stuff sometimes. It just depends on, how tapped in are you to that. And then it's like they're tubes. And if it's somebody that you're very close to, I like to call in the person. Now, it's not the person not going to show up at your house, but I mean, sometimes when you start doing this work, you'll hear from like eggs and you're like, oh boy, and that's even more of a sign that like, we got to clear this.
Contact you.
Yep.
So weird.
Yep. Oh yeah. So, to be prepared, that might happen, family member, old friend, that's happened to me, friends of mine that I've like cut out, and then I started doing this stuff and it's like, oh, but just kind of energetically imagine that the person is, with you, and kind of however you do the meditation, although you're laying down, I kind of meditate and then kind of see myself in it. For me, going to a space where I'm in like a green field or where there's trees. Whenever I imagine and I do any kind of like meditative like visualization, I like to always be in nature in that visualization. It just makes me feel more comfortable, and then I feel like, okay, I'm going to be safe no matter what. Imagine you're in this field and the person that you really feel like is when you've had this kind of little moment where you called in and you said, who am I connected to, or who is it that I'm feeling depleted by, or what's happening here? Imagine that person is standing in front of you, and really meditate and try to tap into the place that you're being siphoned by this person, or vice versa. Sometimes you're doing it too. It's usually back and forth exchange, even if you don't know it. And imagine that this person is in front of you and where you corded. And so it's basically like imagining these tubes and these cords and interjecting the way I see it. So I see things in pictures, right? So the way I see it in a good kind of visualization to see is like a golden Brillo pad. So it's like golden fibers, like metally golden sparkly fibers that are being brushed and cleared through these cords. So it's basically like you cleaning house. And in these ways, and really kind of just seeing these cords being cleared and imagining, once again, you can imagine that circle of light around you and almost like white light raining down on you to kind of clear after you've done this process where you've done this, and then kind of call in and ask for this ultimate clearing over you both. And even if you're not in the best of terms with this person, I just always recommend that when you're doing any of this type of stuff, just send them love and light. Just, whatever, like, it is what it is. I forgive you, or whatever it is. Even if it's not easy for you to say in real life, in that meditative space, if you can bring yourself to be in a place where you just release it, just release everything that's gone on. I forgive you, whatever. Energetically, it really does do wonders behind the scenes. Whether you may never, and some of us have situations where we may never interact. Even you can still do this with people who've passed away, because you can still be corded with people even if they pass away, because it's all part of it. So it's like imagining this person and wishing them the best, and then it's like releasing it. And it's like you can release the person, come back into your body, come back into your space, and then, wherever else the meditation takes you. Sometimes you feel like you need more work, or sometimes you feel like you need more clearing after that. And, sometimes you tap into certain things like, ooh, my heart chakra feels kind of off or whatever. Do a little guided meditation about that, And once again, there's tons of things on YouTube and everything else that you can do that like will guide you if you need that kind of, exact guidance through that. Does anybody have any questions about that business?
Would you liken like the soul retrieval kind of like?
Do you have to hold the mic?
Do I?
I think so. That was what she said. I mean, Angela, I'm like, I mean, yeah, exactly. What kind of example is this setting?
So my question to you, this is so awkward. My question to you.
Hello, sir.
So is the soul retrieval, is that liking it almost like if I have a weak spot, say my solar plexus or something, it's just kind of where I may get attacked, where I might get courted, whatever. It's just kind of like the universe, the mirror reflection, saying like, okay, this is where you got to work on. So it's almost like not a positive thing, but it's like, okay, it's showing me where I got shit going on, and it's almost like, and when I fix that, it's like I'm retrieving that. When I fix that, I'm retrieving that aspect of my soul that this person or whatever it may be. Is that kind of?
That's how I mean, look, I've done a lot of study. There are a billion different ways and methods and ideas about all of this stuff, right? So a lot of the stuff that I talk about or teach or do in session work or any of that is a mixture of things that I've learned by people that I trust and also my own intuition from my own lineage and things that I know to be true in my soul. I believe that, and I don't know necessarily that people are connecting the two and saying that but really all of these methods are interwoven. You can see versions of this, and because my main schooling is shamanism, right? So even when I didn't know it was like, I look back, I'm like, wow, like I did that. Oh yeah, that was, okay. Like I was never going to get away from it. And I sure did try, trust me, because it ain't easy. But there's so many different ways, they didn't have the words. They didn't say it in these ways. We didn't have these fancy modalities and this and that and the other. It was just, you go into nature, you go into journey, you do vision quests, you do, there's things that you do to find this stuff or to retrieve these parts of your soul. To do the, chakras weren't a part of that conversation. There wasn't, so the things that I teach, the things that I believe are really a hybrid of all that I have learned and all that I know to be true for me and for people that I have helped along the way. So that's just something that feels kind of for me like, oh yeah, it's all aligned. Just because I've done that work where I go to set out to do, like today. Okay, it was about cord cutting, but then I just got a vibe. I didn't write a script for what I was going to come up here and say. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. So I'm like, sit down, kind of tapped into a space when I walked in here, and then here we go. So I don't know. Sometimes something else comes up. Maybe it was more meant for you guys to have kind of more energetic protection, because the cord cutting stuff is very in depth, and I wasn't going to sit up here and do cord cutting on anybody, But just some little tools for that. But it felt like the best takeaway that all y'all could have for today would be energetic protection, because no matter what, if your center is grounded and your energy is protected, then all that cord cutting isn't as powerful as it would normally be. So, the soul retrieval stuff, yeah, I do believe that, because there are parts of your soul and then ultimately that affects your body, which is why the whole ancestral thing, it runs in my family. That's why I have it. Oh, I'm going to get cancer because it runs in my family. Well, great. Now you just spoke into existence. Now I'm here claiming it. It's all this stuff. And it's so, it's all interwoven, and it's just how you look at it.
It's like when you do, no, please.
Hi.
Hi.
I had a question.
Thank you.
I was curious about, you said your team, for those of us who are like still living in the muggle world, how do we find our team? Like a shout out. What's up?
And the team grows and leaves and changes, and just like friends, that you got different ones for different purposes and different times and experiences in your life. I can't even remember what I used to think the team was, or what I was the team, I guess. There's some constants for me. I work with archangels. That's a given. I work with native energy. So I've been told that I have chiefs with me and stuff, and I know that it's from my family in some capacity, and then other things. Absolutely, though, the quickest way is meditation with that. you know. And I always tell people, because I also believe that there's this, see, this is, I mean, I know I keep kind of harping back on this, but I always go back to this, but it's like, yeah, my company's Urban Mysticism, because I don't believe that spirituality should just be for the people on the mountaintop. It should be for everybody to weave into your day. So unfortunately, there have been a lot of people in the spiritual community. I'm not, you know, calling anybody out, but what I'm saying is that there's been a lot of people that have this holier than thou mentality. Like, oh, this is how you have to do it. You have to be in lotus position and doing meditations in this way. You cannot eat. You have to do, man, come on. You have to wear all white. Like, come on, dude. No. You know, like, I mean, maybe if they, great for you. If your life has led you in a way where you can just be doing stuff like that, that's amazing. I would love to just be up in the mountains, just doing spiritual work. That'd be great. But that's not the reality for so many of us. So meditation can be when you're driving in your car sometime and you're stuck in traffic and you're listening to music that's really making you feel something. Meditation can be when you're in your shower and you're imagining some stuff that you went through and you're seeing it get washed away and down that drain. Meditation can be when you're standing in line at a store and it's super crazy, but now you've kind of zoned out and you've gotten your little moment and your messages are coming through and your ideas, your creations, things that you want to do. It can be anything that it needs to be for you. We are all different for a reason, and that's amazing. This one-size-fits-all spirituality is bullshit. I'm sorry, like it is. We all have different needs and purposes and connections and lineages and gifts that are all special to each one of us. So if something resonates with you, beautiful, but that doesn't mean that you have to subscribe to this guru mentality that you got to do all this stuff and check all this box. I want to always help my clients and my people to empower them to go out and do what they need to do on their own. I don't want you to have to come. I've had people ask me that, like, how many times do I need to come back to you before I'm healed? No, I have no idea. Ideally, like, I'm probably not going to see your face again, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, that's okay. Like, because it means like what I did worked, and now you're good. You know, come check back in and show me how good you are. Let's do that. Or come back for a little tune-up. Let me do a little tune-up. That's what I love. I love when I've had clients that I've done real serious work, and then when you revisit me, now we're just doing a little tune-up. We're just getting even higher where you need to be to go where you need to go. As for your team, however meditation feels comfortable to you, going for a hike and sitting around some trees, going to the ocean, sitting in the sand, get quiet, you know, just who's with me? And depending on how you process things, you might see color. And so if archangels do feel something that you're called to do, they come in colors. That's how they show you first, right? So you're comfortable, so you don't feel freaked out. They're not just showing up with wings like, ah! You know, it's like you'll see green, you'll see blue. And that correlates. It correlates with different archangels to kind of tap into that. Ascended masters, you know, also work in color, but then there's different energies. Then there's also, like, if you're drawn to sacred geometry, and maybe Metatron's in your team. You know, there's just different deities. Maybe it's somebody, maybe it's, you know, your great-grandmother. You know, it's not just ascended masters and angels and all of that. Sometimes it's someone who you knew in your family that's really watching over you. That's your guardian angel. You know, they say that, but yes, absolutely. That's protecting you. Maybe it's a pet that you had that's now got your back, and like your dog's with you all the time. You know, like there's so many different things and teams and beings that can be around you that if you just kind of get quiet, and they'll show you signs. You know, when you ask for signs, you'll see signs. Feathers are always my thing. Butterflies. So I had a crazy experience yesterday. I'm in a transitional period right now. I've been a nanny for 15 years, and I'm finally stepping out and stepping fully into my path. It's scary as hell. I thank you. I've never not had a jobby job while I did this. I mean, I'm still a little bit doing, but it's like, it's big. And I've really been grappling. I was in Joshua Tree this weekend with my shaman and just doing a lot of different stuff. Yesterday I was sitting in my mom's house, and this butterfly starts flying around me, circling. And I'm used to that. I have that. That was a sign for me. This dragonflies are a thing. And all of a sudden it comes at me and it lands on my head. And I stop, and my mom was there, and she was like, she froze. And I was like, oh. And then it flies off. And then just so I didn't think it was a fluke, it comes on back and it does it again. And I'm like, I literally just started crying. And I was like, oh my God. And it was in the moment that I was really like, should I be making this leap? So often we are given confirmation when we're questioning something. This is why we see, everybody's now all of a sudden, everybody sees 11:11 all the time. Everybody sees 4:44. Everybody sees 3:33. It's not a coincidence. You're seeing these numbers because they're activation times. You're getting activated at these times when you see these because our collective consciousness is opening and raising. So when you see little numbers, you see a little feather or penny or however, stop for a sec. Something's being confirmed for you. Something's being affirmed for you. And it's an activation. And it's either answering a question, or it's that you're on the right path, or it's that, okay, like I'm ready to take the next level, or whatever that is. So just start asking, and sometimes even do automatic writing is a really good one too. Where, if you want to have like an exact, where you're like, well, that's kind of vague, the color or that, this or that. Sometimes if you just sit down, pen and paper, and ask, who's my team? And it's, don't get scared. It's not like there's somebody in there writing on, but sometimes you write something and, or you just sit there and then you get an idea to write a name or to, to have something. That's another way to kind of get a definitive idea on who's with you. So, is there any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I picked my apartment because a butterfly led me to it, which I totally don't believe in all that stuff, but like, this is happening, so.
Many people don't. That's what I'm really excited about. You know how often people come into my sound baths or healings or whatever? I've never done this. I've never been into this. I love it. I love it. Because that's my goal, and I know that's my path, is to demystify, to debunk these ideas and these crazy things where it has to be all so weird and wild. It doesn't have to counteract with or conflict with your religion. It doesn't have to be anything. It's all one. Spirituality, science, religion, they're all one. We have all these tools, which is great.
Pretty cool. Okay, so my question is, so Hollywood's a very chaotic energy space.
Absolutely.
I just moved here last year, and it's like very overwhelming because I was living in Hawaii before this. And it's just
Oh,
like,
gosh.
whoa.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, going with the flow and kick my ass pretty hard.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff you talked about, personal grounding and making sure your home is a safe space, those are obviously very powerful. My question is, as I move around, walking around Hollywood, how can I kind of anticipate like where to go, or because the energy is constantly changing? So how can you kind of like anticipate or look outside yourself of what might be coming?
Well, so that's where that whole thing about imagining your bubble, your egg, right? So you're protected. So no matter what's coming at you, you're still grounded. That's why I say like that kind of the posture and this kind of stuff very, very strongly around here. That's a big one.
Kind of bring it with you.
Wherever you go, it's part of you. That's why I always say start your day in that way, because now you've grounded yourself and you're already tapped into your own power source and your energy source. Then whatever comes up, you can't get swayed, because if you walk around in the how can I be prepared for what's coming out, now you've already gotten into the fear space. So now it's like you're like a beacon. So when you get into that space where you're like, I'm in a really good vibe, but like, oh God, I don't know about Hollywood and everything feels crazy. And like, what if I'm walking down the street? Oh, that guy's crazy. Oh, he's talking to himself. Okay. Oh. Now they got you. So being able to kind of, when you feel that, because clearly you're picking up on stuff, you're intuitive, you're an empath. You'll feel it, It's the minute that you feel something is off with someone's energy, it's like like I said, that mama bear, papa bear, like that you post up. No. And it becomes a face-off, And it might not be that serious or that intense or look like some kind of crazy thing, but it's almost like your superpower, where now you're just walking amongst the craziness, but you've got your shield and it bounces. And the more that you visualize that, your little bubble, your little egg around you, and you're grounding, the more it's like, nope, can't get me. I get caught up in it sometimes too, especially if I've been doing energy work and I'm in that like other level, and then I come out and I'm like talking to everybody, I'm like chopping it, I'm like, and then I forget like, oh wait, there's still people coming in with different stuff, and now I have to like breathe, ground myself, come back to center. Breath work, just a quick in and out inhale is the quickest way too to kind of like when you feel any of that kind of anxiety come up, it's like, oof, okay. I always kind of blow it out. That's like that kind of release to the side on it. Yeah, what time is it? Does anybody know? What time is it? I know I've been talking for a while.
7:55.
All right. I don't know if it's going to be wacky. I don't know if she prepped for me to do this, but I just wanted to do a little. I wanted to do a little drumming for everybody. Just now we've been talking about all this stuff. We've been doing it. I might have to take this mic off though, because I'm loud, y'all. So, and today has been an especially intense day for stuff. I did a sound bath earlier. It was like, so. Just so we can kind of clear out everything we were talking about. Does anybody have any more questions? Anything they want to talk about before I do a little? Yes.
I just wanted to add to what you were saying about the whole, like, people becoming dependent on the healers rather than healing themselves. My favorite phrase that I've ever heard was, how do you spell guru? And it's G-U-R-U. And that's like stuck with me.
Yes!
I wanted to add that little, like, button to the end of that.
Absolutely. That's an exclamation mark. That's not a button.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. No, I mean, honestly, it's like, and I know people mean well, and I know, I mean, hell, it's hard. I've had to process, I'm still processing the idea of, but I just want to heal people. But then you're like, but if I'm doing this full time, I have to pay my bills and I have to make money. And how does that look? How do I keep my price points affordable? How do I help people? My goal, ultimately, my bigger picture goal is to do the work in these ways, and then I can work with nonprofit and I can volunteer my services in places that I want to do, to help people that I want to help. So that's kind of how, it's like you offset that stuff. But it is tricky, and it is tricky, especially when you're in the spiritual world and you're trying to kind of do this stuff to offer healings to people, but to also be able to have yourself in a position to where you can offer those healings and you don't have to do other stuff. But there becomes a point with a lot of people where that ego takes over, and then all of a sudden the stuff that you were gifted and you were given to share, you now think you own. And that's when that shift happens. I always say, like, I am so beyond thankful to be able to have been gifted the things that I have to work with and the modalities that I have and the sound healing that I have, but it's not me. When I get into a space, when I'm doing sound healing, it is not me. When I'm doing toning, it's other level crazy. And I absolutely cannot get into that space now. Like, I'm not a singer. I can't do any of those notes that I do when I do those sound baths regularly. So it's not me. So if you always keep in your mind that, then that whole thing doesn't happen. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't. But that's the great thing about nowadays, where we have so many places like Liberate. We have so many venues where, not so many places like Liberate. I will just say this. I grew up in LA. This is one of a kind, and I am beyond thankful to be a part of this family and to be here. Like, really, I always feel like I get emotional when I talk about it, but for real, like, I am so thankful. The team here, Christina, everybody who works here, the environment, the energy, the people, beautiful people like yourselves that it calls in. It's authentic and it's real, and it's about helping people and healing people and not just being all fake spiritual. So that's important. When you feel called to be to a place and align yourself with that place, it's something to be thankful for. So with that, I'm going to do a little drumming. I think I'm going to take this off though, because you know how I do, and this might just be real crazy if we...
Sit it down here. Got it?
It's
Just don't rip your.
tricky business. Is it?
Let me see it. Hold on.
I was an actress for most of my life. You think I know how to get mic'd and
I'll let
unmic'd,
you
but
pull
apparently
that
I've
out.
forgotten that. That's sad. Oh. Whoop.
Okay.
We got it.
Thank you, dear. All right. I'm gonna just set this right
All
here. Yep.
All right, everybody. So I'm gonna have everybody just kind of take a couple deep breaths in. So we're gonna do 3. So we're gonna do a deep breath in. Let it out. In. let it out. And one big one in. And let it out. Just imagine what it is that you want to release or call in.
and let it out. Alright, people. We release a little stuff. Not a ton, but something. Thank you all for participating in this.